Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Aiken. We are broadcasting from the Hess Well, good morning and welcome to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. Thank you for joining us on this Friday morning edition. Little housekeeping. We're going to read viewer comments in just a second. We have a lot to talk about. Hillary Clinton's deposition. I know Bill Clinton, his is today. We also have quite a few New York updates. Speaking of New York, a little bit later on in the broadcast, we're going to be talking, and I want to explain this for just a second. I'll explain it a couple times during the program. We're going to be talking to Larry Sharpe. Now, Larry Sharpe, you may remember that name. He's ran for governor, I think it was 4 times so far as a libertarian. He is currently out getting the petitions to primary challenge Bruce Blakeman. And before anybody reads into this, why I'm having Larry Sharpe on the program, he's in the area, and I wanted to hear why he is running. The same invitation would go out to Bruce Blakeman. I would love to have him on the program. I'm sure we will at some point. I would love to have Kathy Hochul, our governor, on. So don't read anything into it in the sense of that. Just sit back and relax and listen to the interview with Larry Sharpe, because I believe even if he doesn't get the Republican win, the way it sounded, and the interview was pre-recorded, it sounds as if he'll still attempt a third-party run as libertarian. So a lot of moving pieces there, I understand. If you have any questions about it, I'd love to hear from you. All right, let's go to some viewer comments. This came in right at the end of yesterday's program. Town of Big Flats is considering letting Amazon build next to Sperry Park. Like the idea, but not next. Sperry Park. Did I say that weird? Sperry Park. Like the idea, but not next to a sacred place where Trooper Sperry died. Thank you very much. That's a very good point. I think that's what most of the rumblings I've heard is about the location, so I understand. Comment from a different viewer. Mark writes in, good morning, Frank. Well, good morning, Mark. I see Trump has got lawyers working on an executive order to take over voting rights. We'll talk about that in just a second, Mark. And locally, the Dunkin' Donuts across from the Arnett Mall has burned to the ground. I got rooting around it as it was burning, and it was a terrible sight. Well, thank you, Mark. Yes, we talked about that. Someone had texted in yesterday towards the end of the broadcast to tell us that it was on fire, so we kind of broke that story for you yesterday. But to your first point, this is what the Washington Post is reporting. Pro-Trump activists who say they are in coordination, in coordination with the White House, are circulating a 17-page draft executive order that claims China interfered in the 2020 election as a basis to declare a national emergency that would unlock extraordinary presidential power over voting. President Donald Trump has repeatedly previewed a plan to mandate voter ID and ban mail ballots in November's midterm elections, and the activists expect their draft will figure into Trump's promised executive order on the issue. The White House has declined to elaborate on Trump's plans. Quote, under the Constitution, it's the legislatures and states that really control how a state conducts its elections, and the president doesn't have any power to do that, said Peter Tickton, a Florida lawyer who is advocating for the draft executive order. Tickton attended the New York Military Academy with Trump and was part of his legal team that filed an unsuccessful 2022 lawsuit accusing Democrats of conspiring to damage him with allegations that his 2016 campaign colluded with Russia. Quote, but here we have a situation where the president is aware that there are foreign interests that are interfering in our election process. That causes a national emergency where the president has to be able to deal with it. The emergency would empower the president to ban mail ballots and voting machines as the vectors of foreign interference, is the argument. The idea of claiming emergency executive powers based on allegations of foreign interference attaches new significance to the administration's actions to reinvestigate the 2020 election. So there you go. That's just a little update. It sounds like it's pro-Trump activists, nothing official. We have heard nothing official. Now, that did not stop Jamie Raskins, Democrat from Maryland, for weighing in on this, saying everything we're hearing about today is an echo of what took place in 2020. Write me a memo. Explain how we can steal the election. Why? Because their policies are tremendously unpopular. They're plummeting in the polls, so you don't have a program of policies for the country. They're just going to try to shrink and reduce the electorate and somehow rig the electoral results. The administration should take note from what happened in the tariffs case, where Donald Trump, there again, completely bypassed Congress and then purported to impose the largest tax increase, basically in American history, on the American people in the court, and the court struck it down, rightfully, because he has no power to do that. Anyway, you get the idea. Okay, thank you, Mark. Breaking early this morning, Pakistan bombed Taliban government targets in Afghanistan's major cities overnight. Officials from both countries said early this morning, with Pakistan's defense minister calling the conflict open war. Security sources in Pakistan said the strikes involved air-to-ground missile attacks on Taliban military offices and posts in Kabul, Kandahar, and Pakita, as well as ground clashes in multiple sectors along the border between the Islamic nations. The Taliban said it launched what it described as retaliatory attacks on Pakistani military installations. Both sides reported heavy losses, issuing sharply differing figures that Reuters could not independently verify. Our cup of patience has overflowed. Now is open war between us and you, meaning Afghanistan, said the Pakistani defense minister. Relations between Kabul and Istanbul have been strained by a long-running dispute over Pakistan's accusation that Afghanistan harbors militants carrying out attacks across the border. The Taliban have denied the charge and said Pakistan's security is an internal problem. All right, so that broke late last night. Speaking of foreign policy, Iran left talks with the U.S. yesterday without a deal to end its nuclear program, as President Trump escalated his military buildup in the Middle East to prepare for war. The negotiations in Geneva were inconclusive, with Trump's self-imposed deadline to reach an agreement on the future of Tehran's nuclear program ticking down as soon as this weekend. As diplomacy languishes, Trump continued to amass military assets, and a sign that a strike could be just around the corner, with ships moving into position and hundreds of military aircrafts now gathered within range of Iran. Experts say it would be one of the largest buildups of military assets ever without the U.S. carrying out a strike. Already, the U.S. has assembled the greatest amount of air power in the region since the 2003 invasion of Iraq, signaling to analysts that some kind of U.S. strike is around the corner. Trump has said he'd prefer a deal, but all options are on the table militarily. Thursday's meeting took place exactly 1 week after Trump told a meeting of his Board of Peace in Washington that he would decide whether to hit Iran over, quote, the next probably 10 days. I think he went up to 15 at one point. I think he said 10 to 15 days. Under deadline pressure, all sides described progress after more than 6 hours of discussions in Geneva. The Australian capital is home to the United Nations nuclear watchdog, the International Atomic Energy Agency. But Iranian state media said the country had rejected the central U.S. demand that it relinquish its nuclear program, saying representatives, quote, firmly reiterated Iran's, quote, nuclear rights while demanding the end of U.S. sanctions. Iranian foreign minister's spokesperson bashed the American side halfway through the day's discussion, which is always great. Quote, there are contradictory statements from some U.S. officials which raise doubts about their seriousness, he said during a break in talks. A starkly different tune came from the foreign minister after negotiations concluded for the day, who said that, quote, overall it was one of the best rounds of negotiations and one of the most serious and longest. So we will be keeping a close eye on that over the weekend. We learned the Pentagon's first kamikaze drone unit is ready for the Iran strikes. The drone unit is known as Task Force Scorpion and evolved from experimental U.S. military drone units. It's now ready for operation. U.S. Central Command spokesman Captain Tim Hawkins said in an emailed statement, quote, we established the squadron last year to rapidly equip our warfighters with new combat drone capabilities that continue to evolve. The one-way attack drone unit is now part of the largest regional U.S. military buildup since the 2003 invasion of Iraq, which was ordered by Trump to pressure Iran into negotiations about its nuclear program. And we know that fell apart. Now, J.D. Vance dismissed speculations that a U.S. military strike against Iran would lead to a protracted war in the Middle East. And we talked about this yesterday because that's what Stephen Collinson of CNN was suggesting, that this could be a prolonged war. It could be very much like Iraq. But Vance said, quote, "The idea that we're going to be in the Middle Eastern war for years with no end in sight, there is no chance that will happen." The vice president cited the airstrikes last year that damaged the nuclear facilities and last month's capture of Maduro as examples of the very clearly defined military campaigns previously ordered by President Trump, suggesting that Iran, if there is an attack on Iran, it would be similar. Days before last June's strike on Iran, the vice president argued that people are right to be worried about foreign entanglements after the last 25 years of idiotic foreign policy. Vance still views himself as a skeptic of foreign military interventions and argued the description applies to Trump as well. That's what he told the outlet. "I think we all prefer the diplomatic option, but it really depends on what the Iranians do and what they say." Now, the top House Democrats are going to force a vote on reining in Trump's Iran war powers. That's what they announced yesterday. Forcing a vote next week on a resolution that would require President Trump to seek congressional authorization to use military force in Iran. Well, that's interesting. So the vote is next week. Trump's deadline could be as soon as today or this weekend. The vote does have a chance to pass in the House, with even some House Republicans expressing opposition as the White House inches closer to a potential major war in the Middle East. You guessed it, Representative Thomas Massie, a staunch anti-interventionalist, is leading the war powers effort with progressive Representative Ro Khanna. Thomas Massie, of course, has been a thorn in President Trump's side with many issues, almost every issue. Representative Warren Davis, a Republican from Ohio, said, "I've asked for a classified briefing defining the mission in Iran. In the absence of new information, I will support the war powers resolution in the House next week." Now, in a collective statement, House Minority Leader Hakeem Jeffries and multiple top members of his leadership team said they will force the war powers vote, quote, "as soon as Congress reconvenes next week." The Iranian regime is brutal and destabilizing, seen most recently in the killing of thousands of protesters. However, undertaking a war of choice in the Middle East without a full understanding of all the attendant risks to our service members and to escalation is reckless. We maintain that such action would be unconstitutional without consultation with an authorization from Congress. So that's interesting. So they admit to the real troubles in Iran. Thousands of protesters killed, brutally killed, but then there's the but. In addition to Minority Whip Catherine Clark, Democrat from Massachusetts, and Democrat Caucus Chair Pete Aguilar, the statement was co-signed by several top Democrats on the committees of jurisdiction: Jim Hines, Greg Meeks, Adam Smith. Even as some Republicans signaled their intent to break with the White House on the vote, some Democrats have signaled they will defy their leadership and oppose the resolution. Representatives Josh Gottheimer from New Jersey and Mike Lawler, so you got a Democrat and Republican, told Axios in a joint statement they oppose the measure. Representative Jared Moskowitz, a Democrat from Florida, has said he is a no as well, with Representative Greg Landsman, a Democrat from Ohio, telling Axios, "I'd rather see their weapons destroyed than see the loss of any more lives." Another centrist Democrat, who asked not to be identified, said that they are a no as well. So there is your news on the international front. I see some comments coming in. We've got a couple of other breaking stories that we really can't tie in together. We will talk a little bit about Hillary Clinton's deposition. I see that Representative Boebert kind of threw the whole thing into a tizzy by sharing a photo that wasn't supposed to be done, but that got confusing because didn't Hillary originally say she wanted the whole thing broadcast and put out there? It looked like kind of a convenient excuse. Well, we'll talk about that a little bit later on, but I'd love to hear your thoughts on it. I'd love to hear your thoughts on all the issues of the day. We can still weigh in on the State of the Union if you would like. I think I have one thing on the State of the Union, maybe two. But we've got some really important New York State updates as well. So stay with us. We're just getting started on this Friday morning edition of Frankly Speaking, and we'll be right back.
You had cabin fever? Are You dreaming of warmer weather? Now's the time to start enjoying the benefits of hot water therapy during Hesselson's Cabin Fever Reliever Hot Tub Sale. With 0% interest financing and additional sales incentives, Hesselson's makes it easier to start making every day better today. Huge savings on odds and end models, 0% financing, locally owned and operated since 1955. Why wait? Now is the best time to buy that hot tub you've always wanted during Hesselson's Cabin Fever Reliever Hot Tub Sale going on now. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
Allegiant's flight from Elmira to Myrtle Beach starts May 22nd, 2026. Whether it's a weekend escape or a week in the sun, Myrtle Beach is closer than ever. Non-stop to sun, sand, and seaside days. From takeoff to toes in the sand, your coastal getaway starts right here at Elmira Corning Regional. Mornings on the boardwalk, afternoons on the golf course, and evenings with oceanfront dining or a flight away with Allegiant's new direct flight. Starts May 22nd, 2026. Book now at AllegiantAir.com.
It'll be a mild day out there with sunshine, light southwest wind, temperature pushing into the mid and upper 40s as compared to the average high of 39. Mild tonight, in fact, staying above freezing with a low of 34. That means it'll be warmer Saturday morning than it will be in the heat of the day, Sunday and Monday, as we settle into some cooler air briefly. Not stuck with it for the rest of the forecast. Could see a little bit of snowflake fall Saturday night into Sunday.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson's studio. Comment from a viewer. A Democrat saying Republicans have no agenda. That was in reference to Jamie Raskins. What a load of nonsense. If that isn't a classic case of projection, then I don't know what is. Thank you very much. And those stinking Democrats spend so much time in attempting to derail every single thing President Trump tries to do that's amazing they can even find the time to eat, let alone look out for their constituents. Thank you very much. Yesterday, it emerged that Paramount is the victor in the months-long battle for Warner Brothers. Warner Brothers, Discovery, after Netflix backed out of the bidding war on Thursday, leaving Paramount poised to acquire Warner's vast media empire, which includes CNN and others. I actually saw, what were the numbers? It's pretty fascinating. I'm not necessarily a numbers guy, but if you look at what the deal entails, this is months long, and not something I even followed that closely. Paramount's offer came in at $31 per share, compared to Netflix, $27.75 a share for the WBD streaming and studio assets. The overall value of Paramount's offer was $111 billion, compared with Netflix's measly $83 billion. All right, there you go. Hey, a couple things that there's no way to segue through. Oh, comment from a viewer. Good morning, Frank. Well, good morning. Should be noted that John Fetterman stood at the State of the Union address, at many of the statements. Okay, I see, at the State of the Union address. Yeah, we mentioned that yesterday. He did. He also was criticized for shaking the President of the United States' hand. As far as he was aware, and the person questioning him, he was the only Democrat to do so. And he said, if you have a problem with that, that's your problem. Yes, he was, and we talked about it quite extensively yesterday, clear-headed in saying that what the Democrats did during the State of the Union was just embarrass themselves more. It just made them look bad, kind of essentially falling into that trap. If you want to talk, since you mentioned it, we've got a couple of things here about the State of the Union. I can jump ahead. Why don't we jump ahead? I like it. Stephen A. Smith called out Democrats over their theatrics at the State of the Union, saying Donald Trump, when he asks the questions about cheering and asking about protecting American citizens and prioritizing them ahead of migrants, he set you up. He knew you weren't going to stand. He knew 73 of y'all were going to show up to another place, to other places, and not show up to the State of the Union. This was during his show, Straight Shooter. Well, yeah, they played right into his hands. As a matter of fact, think of how much of a dud that would have been if they did stand. It would have thrown his whole speech essentially into a tizzy. They played right into his hands. And as Stephen A. Smith points out, a lot of Democrats didn't even show up. I know Jasmine Crockett was one of them. And he's making the claim that you hate him so much, you're devoid of objectivity. And you're devoid of thinking about what's in the best interest of the United States of America because you're too busy thinking about your own personal feelings and animus toward him. And every time you do that, he smiles and mocks you and has a field day. You played right into his hands. Don't come back at me and say Stephen A. Smith is a sellout, or blank Stephen A. Smith, or Stephen A. Smith is this way or that. I'm just telling you what it is. Don't kill the messenger. He then offered some advice saying, shape the message in a fashion that benefits you for once. The man has been playing you all like a fiddle for 11 years now, and you still can't beat him. Darn. He didn't say darn, though. You keep falling right into his hands, and it's a darn shame. Who do you think is affected when we see Representative Omar screaming at him the way that she has? When you see James Carville going off the way that he does? Ladies and gentlemen, I'm not knocking them. I'm not denigrating them. Please don't take it that way. I'm just saying, when are you going to get committed to what works? Because Carville, I guess, said during a preview of the State of the Union that everyone hated the president, calling him a fat, sorry sack of something. Smith argued that Americans care more about their health care, homes, mortgages, bills, retirement, job security, and gas prices. That's what they care about. They don't give a darn whether they like them, whether they like him or not. When are we going to do that? What in the heck is wrong with people? I cannot believe this. Well, absolutely. Played right into his hands. Imagine. Just imagine, which I know it would never happen, but if Trump asked that question and the Democrats did stand, it would have thrown everything off. He did, and Stephen A. Smith is exactly right. He has been playing the Democrats like a fiddle for 11 years. Now, a vulnerable House Democrat from Oregon, Janelle Bingham, called a challenge from President Donald Trump's State of the Union address, quote, racist, when he asked listeners to stand if they agreed that U.S. should prioritize the safety of its own citizens over illegal aliens. Now we know Democrats remain seated. After the address, Bingham, representative again from Oregon, who is on the National Republican Congressional Committee's list of vulnerable Democrat incumbents, said the moment made her uneasy. Quote, I think you can agree with the what, like standing up for American citizens, but I disagree with the how. There's thinly veiled racist language, anti-immigrant language in what he was talking or what he was asking, and that was uncomfortable. Man, people get uncomfortable very easily, don't they? Now, I guess Jimmy Kimmel, which who really cares, but Jimmy Kimmel went off on President Trump's State of the Union address. Well, the White House Director of Communications, Stephen Chang, decided to call him out, calling Jimmy Kimmel a sad, angry, and insufferable idiot. And reminded the public that Jimmy Kimmel had previously dressed in blackface. This is the exact quote. Jimmy Kimmel is a sad, angry, and insufferable idiot who probably didn't even watch the speech and is recycling his tired, ineffective material. Reminder, Jimmy dressed in blackface, sharing a photo of him in blackface. Now, he was responding to a clip from Tuesday's episode of Jimmy Kimmel Live. Kimmel said what a speech it was. I can't believe America missed an all-new Will Trent for this one. It was angry. Before claiming the theme of the president's speech was all foreigners are murderers. And Trump said 0 illegal aliens have been allowed into the United States on his watch. But the door is always open to those who come in legally to be his next wife. Wow, these are boring, cliche jokes, aren't they? He went on to liken Trump's remarks to a Christmas message from the Grinch before going as far as comparing the United States to Nazi Germany by bizarrely suggesting concentration camps are currently being built in America. Quote, Trump applauded the efforts of a World War II vet who liberated an internment camp. At the same time, he is building new ones here in the United States. What? So again, in response, the White House communications director, Stephen Chung, saying Jimmy Kimmel is a sad, angry, and insufferable idiot who probably didn't even watch the speech and is recycling his tired, ineffective material. Reminder, Jimmy dressed in blackface. Now, Nancy Pelosi was on Spectrum News 1, and they were talking about the State of the Union. And then they asked about discussing the House possibly flipping control in the midterm election. Pelosi said, we only need a handful, but I would rather have at least 30 now. But it doesn't matter if I want to win more than we need, because I think the Republicans will try to play a stunt and challenge if it's just a few seats. So it's good to have the insurance of having many more. That's the way I like it. I've been in politics a long time, as you know, and we've had Democratic presidents, Republican presidents. They've all been patriots until now. We have to win this race. Okay. Do you recall the times that Nancy Pelosi called George W. Bush a patriot? No. How long has she been in Washington? My goodness, how many Republican presidents do you think she thought as Reagan as a patriot? No. But her talking point here now, because she's trying to rewrite history and things she said in the past, we've had Democratic presidents, Republican presidents. They've all been patriots until now. Until Trump, they've all been patriots. She then went on to use the cliche talking points. Our democracy is at stake. What is a democracy? A democracy is free and fair elections, an independent judiciary, freedom of the press, due process, rule of law, all that diminished under the president and the Republicans in Congress. It's not just about his second term and what that is. It's about the Congress of the United States abolishing itself and just yielding to him on every score. So they've all been patriots up until now. Now, David Marks, oh my goodness, I'm running late. All right, keep those comments, keep those waves coming in. We will be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
New York State is putting nearly $60 million towards improving key roadways across the southern tier.
Many older homes are still at risk for exposing residents to high levels of lead.
The Nani Hood Parent Resource Center once again brought the community together for its annual Halloween parade.
Around the southern tier, Finger Lake stands out for its scenery and wine scene. This year's drive drought brought some positives to the crop. Lee Com Center is looking for fans to show up and show out.
The red, white, and blue oval. The Ford President's Day sales event is bringing deals on all the stars of the lineup. And they've earned their stripes as J.D. Power's most awarded brand for new vehicle quality. Don't miss out, because now's the time to capitalize. Right now, lease a Ford F-150 for $299 a month for 36 months. Only at your local Ford stores.
Yeah, hello. I'm really not sure if this is what you all do, but I really don't have anywhere else to turn.
Hi. I don't even know why I'm calling right now. I'm sorry. My thoughts are going a mile a minute.
My kids are out of state. My buddies from the army are all gone now. I'm really alone.
I left the service last year. My mom just passed away a few months ago. I miss so much time with her. I keep getting calls about the bills, and I'm trying to get a job, but I feel so stuck.
Okay, ma'am. I'm glad you called.
Okay, sir. Let's stay on the line and walk through some things.
Thanks.
Okay.
Thanks a lot.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Comment from a viewer. Again, a Democrat saying President Trump is prejudiced is yet another classic example of projection. For those who don't know what projection is, it is where a person sees another person and judges that person according to their own beliefs. One last thing on, thank you, and one last thing on the State of the Union. We talked yesterday about that one group of Democrats who skipped the State of the Union to attend an event with Robert De Niro. It was called State of the Swamp. And one group there were the Portland Frog Brigade. We talked about them yesterday. They are quite literally, according to David Marcus, Antifa thugs in cutesy clothing. By now, you have probably seen these big inflatable frogs, if not from clips of the brain-dead anti-Trump bash, then from protests at ICE facilities, first in Portland, then Chicago, Minneapolis, and across the country. If you watch the news coverage about these supposedly amiable amphibians, even in the most conservative outlets, they are treated as goofy but harmless, activists playing dress-up, not as the dangerous thugs they are, and that is the whole point. It's not a costume, it's a tactical uniform. The standard issue inflatable frog costume serves two key purposes. First, it hides the identity of the agitator. Second, and more importantly, it makes the agitator appear to be the exact opposite of a physical threat. How do I know all of this about the Frog Brigade, says David Marcus? Well, I witnessed the whole thing begin in Portland last October and even had a brief scuffle with one of the Antifa leaders who popularized the demented trend. Here's how I described Portland Antifa agitators, including the original Frogman, harassing and trapping a pro-Trump woman in her car at an ICE facility. Quote, her car was completely surrounded by masked Antifa losers, including one in a giant frog costume. Women screeched at her as the miscreants berated her in belittling terms. It was clear the three police officers standing by were going to do nothing despite her car being repeatedly kicked. So I made my way through to her, tapped her on the shoulder, and said, you should probably go. She replied, slightly panicked, I want to, but they won't let me. I looked up at her captors and said firmly, she wants to leave, let her leave. And of all people, it was the Frogman who shouted, let her leave, as I helped her back up without hitting anyone. According to reporter Andy Nago, who knows more about Antifa than anybody, the man credited with starting the frog suit ploy is a known agitator who was arrested in January protesting the arrest of suspected TDA gang members in Portland. By then, the frog suit had taken off like a biblical plague. The frogs were suddenly everywhere, but why? What Antifa and its allies realized was that the childish absurdity of the costume makes anyone claiming that those wearing them are some sort of serious threat look ridiculous. Even just writing this column feels that way. But in this case, the truth is very important. In addition to the multiple Antifa frogs being praised at the Democrat Party, there was a man in a giraffe outfit doing slam poetry, proudly proclaiming that he had been detained in ICE facilities 3 times. Again, the cute Sesame Street-style furry costume is meant to make claims that this lunatic is a dangerous criminal seem nonsensical, even when he openly admits to being arrested trying to protect foreign gang members from deportation. It is possible that many Democrat elected officials really did not know these frog people are Antifa, though Senator Ron Wyden and Representative Maxine Dexter, both Democrats from Oregon, certainly should, since their constituents started it all. Let's not forget that it was just a few short years ago that Democrats told us Antifa doesn't even exist. In fact, Representative Jerry Nadler called the group a myth, and Biden FBI Director Christopher Wray called it an ideology, not an organization. How times have changed. So the next time you see one of those frogs, don't be fooled. Don't be taken in by an absurd charade. Just know that these are anti-American thugs who regularly employ violence in their attempt to take down the U.S. as Democrats cheer them on. That is David Marcus. I thought that was a really interesting and different take on the frog costumes. All right, when we return, a couple other quick things before we talk about Hillary Clinton. Oh, by the way, did you see Fox News crushed CNN and MS Now? MS Now was MSNBC. So CNN, MS Now, Fox News beat them with 35% more viewers than both channels combined. You add the numbers from CNN and MSN Now, and Fox News crushes them by 35%. Wow. All right, we got to take a break. Keep those waves, keep those comments coming in. We will be right back after this.
More cars, lower prices. Simmons Rockwell. Make car buying simple when you drive your deal at a Simmons Rockwell location near you, where you'll always find more cars at lower prices.
It's the home of Tivity. Release your inner audio engineer. Create with the 3D printer. Make your clothing ideas come together with our sewing machine rentals. Or come to the library event nights to chat with those within your community. All with your library card. Go to your local library today.
We are the keepers of the wild. America's original and most invested conservationists. For more than 80 years, we've been committed to conserving wildlife and the natural landscapes that define our nation. From rugged alpine ridgelines to peaceful tall grass prairies, we've supported the conservation of more than 36 million acres of American wildlands. Our funding has led to cleaner water, fresher air, and improved wildlife habitat. From abundant fish and waterfowl populations to robust deer and elk herds, nothing is more important than maintaining wild spaces for adventurers to explore and wildlife to thrive. We are America's hunters and target shooters, stewards of the American outdoors.
Whether it's our stories, the warmth of our laugh, or our family's secret sauce, we all bring something different to the table. So make some space. The power of connection is waiting right outside your comfort zone. Learn how you can help strengthen your community at belongingbeginswithus.org/teamup.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson's studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. Comment from a viewer that Fox crushed the fake news by 35% is indicative of just how many people support President Trump. Now, there's a poll you can take to the bank. Thank you very much. Yesterday... No, I don't think it happened yesterday, but the video started to surface. A Somali wrong-way truck driver was caught barreling a 80-ton truck down a Missouri highway. The Somali driver, wasn't able to read road signs and allegedly failed an English proficiency test after being pulled over, according to authorities. The trucker was filmed driving in the northbound lanes on Highway 61 near Troy, about 55 miles outside of St. Louis, at 8 a.m. on Wednesday, before finally crossing over and heading the right way. The video is terrifying. Sean Duffy, the U.S. Transportation Secretary, said, "We have learned that a truck driver with a Minnesota CDL who couldn't read basic road signs spent miles driving the wrong way in an 80-ton truck. Thanks to Missouri law enforcement, this dangerous trucker is now out of service." They're also investigating. Missouri State Highway Patrol troopers discovered that the trucker was behind the wheel despite being unable to identify basic road signs required for a commercial license. Authorities said the driver had a valid commercial driver's license and exhibited no signs of impairment or medical issues. However, during the traffic stop, police said that the driver was unable to complete the English proficiency test. Quote, "In Missouri, they have to be able to understand English, take the test in English, and pass the road sign test here," said Sergeant Dallas Thomas. After the trucker was removed from the road without causing a crash, authorities said the Somali national driver is licensed in Minnesota and employed by Cargo Transportation, LLC. The trucker was ticketed for driving the wrong way and no arrests were made. The Minnesota Department of Public Safety has opened an investigation into the incident, according to the outlet. Quote, "We can confirm that all CDL applicants in Minnesota must take their knowledge and behind-the-wheel testing in English to demonstrate the ability to safely operate a commercial vehicle," the department said. "When issuing a CDL or commercial learner's permit, our Driver and Vehicle Services Division follows the requirements set by federal rules." Duffy confirmed that the Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration and the U.S. Department of Transportation have opened an investigation into how the trucker got his CDL. Wow. an 80-ton truck going down the wrong way in Missouri with the Somali truck driver barreling down the highway. I know that has been stories we brought to you, unfortunately, in the past, numerous examples of that. And that kind of ties in. We know, well, how are we doing on time? I wanted to mention, yeah, we're doing fine. Okay, a couple quick things. We will talk about Hillary Clinton. We do have a couple of New York State updates that I think you're going to find interesting. In the next hour, we're not going to have a ton of time, so make sure you get your comments in. We'll be talking with Larry Sharp. Now, he is in the process of trying to primary Bruce Blakeman. He needs to get 14,000 signatures to do so. And it sounds to me, the interview is pre-taped, it sounds to me that if he is not successful in that, he will still be running as third party. Now, before anybody says, well, why have him on and not Blakeman or Hochul or whoever, I would have any of them on. I'm not going to miss that opportunity. That's always been the goal on this program, is to have you hear from everyone. This one's a little bit early because he's in the process of getting the petitions signed, but because he was in the area, it made sense. So that's why I wanted to sit down with him for a few moments in the next hour. But again, that's not any kind of, there's nothing to read into this interview, just the fact that we're going to talk with Larry Sharp, just like we hope to talk with Bruce Blakeman as soon as possible. And again, I don't think it'll ever happen, but Governor Hochul, why not? Okay. Representative Timothy Kennedy, a Democrat from New York, was on CNN International and a program called The Brief. Now, if you may have forgotten, maybe you did, maybe you forgot, that the government is partially shut down, DHS is shut down, and we know the Democrats have caused the shutdown, and with no end in sight, and there's no real reason for it, because ICE is still completely funded. Who gets hurt? It's the Coast Guard. Who gets hurt? TSA. And others. So Timothy Kennedy, a Democrat from New York, said the American people must have demanded accountability within the Department of Homeland Security, and we must continue to drive that message forward to create that accountability and create trust, once again, in our government, where this administration has failed our country. So admitting that the shutdown does not impact ICE, but we have to, quote, drive the message. Remember, it's always the message. It's always their talking point. Let me give you the full quote. Well, Donald Trump and congressional Republicans would rather shut down TSA, shut down the Coast Guard, shut down FEMA, instead of making accountability measures that the American people are demanding to an out-of-control ICE agency. And so we have got to hold their feet to the fire. The American people have demanded accountability within the Department of Homeland Security, and we must continue to drive that message forward to create that accountability and create trust, once again, in our government, where the administration has failed our country. Oh, that's interesting. So now it's the Republicans' fault that that part of the government is shut down, even though the Republicans have wanted it open from the beginning. That's a weak argument because they know they're in a bad place. Chuck Schumer took away all of their leverage when he funded all the other entities and just left this one out, and ICE is already well funded. So it's really a fool's errand that they're down, and they know that. That's why you have not heard the screaming from the media about the government shutdown, about the Coast Guard person who can't bring groceries home to their family, or the TSA members who aren't coming in because, and then your safety's at risk. It could lead to a violent, I guess violent words, crash, and all of these things. That's what the media would normally be doing, but they realize how bad this looks for the Democrat Party. It's very much why the coverage of the State of the Union dropped quickly, didn't it? If you watch the news the last couple of days, yeah, they tried to spin certain things he said and try to paint it as negative. I get that. But he did such a masterful job when it came to the standing and the applauding and then the interjecting with people receiving medals and introducing people. He really put on a show, and that's why the media, as I mentioned yesterday, had to come out with a piece. Americans are concerned about the mental health of the president and these type of things. They had to quickly distract from the State of the Union message because they know how amazing it was. And again, I know I've said it a million times, if that were a Democrat, they would say not only was it the best speech that Democrat president ever gave, it was perhaps the best State of the Union ever. But because it's a Republican, of course, they're bearing it. They talked very little about it. As soon as they could, they stopped. Now, speaking of DHS not being funded, but ICE being funded, Senator Adam Schiff, he says he's warning you that President Trump is building an ICE army that's going to be policing American streets. We wanted to go through DHS contracting records and document just how much they're spending to militarize this new, effectively new police forces, palace guard of the president that is wreaking such havoc in our cities. And we found dramatic increases in spending on weapons. As you said, ICE agents will be equipped with now 3 to 4 times the amount of weapons as the previous year. Customs and Border Protection doubling their expenditures on the same. I think what we're seeing is a dangerous combination of a much more heavily armed immigration law enforcement complex. At the same time, we heard whistleblower testimony this week that they've cut the training for these new ICE agents, and they're getting inadequate training on what to use these weapons and how to use these weapons. That is a really dangerous mix. And we wanted to sound the alarm with this reporting that we're seeing the emergence of a kind of law enforcement or immigration enforcement industrial complex, because it's not just the weapons. We're seeing dramatic increases in expenditures on detention centers. They want to build around this country, and this is a way of gathering its own momentum. And we need to be aware of what's happening, that we're building a not small army now that's going to be policing American streets. Representative Jake Auchincloss, Democrat from Massachusetts, argued that there is a DHS shutdown, quote, because this administration is insisting on a false choice to the American public, and said the Democrats are not going to back down on this. Okay. He was asked, should workers at DHS, like those in the TSA or FEMA, brace for weeks of this? He said they shouldn't have to. They shouldn't have to suffer a day of it, because this administration is insisting on a false choice. All right, keep up that winning battle. There is a clear reason why the media is not talking about it, is not focused on it like they normally would be, because, again, they realize it is not effective for the Democrats, that they kind of painted themselves into a corner. All right. Oh, hey, we got a Climate Fact Friday Bob statement. We look forward to that. We might play that at the top of the hour. We always look forward to Climate Fact Friday, Bob. We've got so many other things to get to. Run just a tad bit late. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox.
An albino baby buffalo was born.
Nearly 500 kilos of cocaine has been seized in a bus.
Day 1 of the National Glider Competition.
It's tax time, and Current Power Sports is here to help your refund go further. For the month of February, we're covering the sales tax on any new CF Moto machine purchase, plus select accessories. That means big savings on machines built to work hard, ride far, and handle anything you can throw at them. Why pay more than you have to? Let us cover the tax. Stop by Current Power Sports in Wellsboro, Pennsylvania, or Pine City, New York, and save big on your next CF Moto. Limitations apply. See store for details.
Everyone has a community, a neighborhood, school, place of worship, or other chosen groups. Communities can provide support when you need it, including helping your kids avoid underage drinking and other substance use. Learn more at talktheyhearyou.samhsa.gov.
It's a mild day out there with sunshine, light southwest wind, temperature pushing into the mid and upper 40s as compared to the average high of 39. Mild tonight, in fact, staying above freezing with a low of 34. That means it'll be warmer Saturday morning than it will be in the heat of the day, Sunday and Monday, as we settle into some cooler air briefly. Not stuck with it for the rest of the forecast. Could see a little bit of snowflake fall Saturday night into Sunday. A few more shower chances next week.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Some comments from viewers. Unless Blakeman gets his New York butt up here to explain his views, the other guy will get my vote. Thank you very much. Another comment. Personally, I can't wait for ICE to begin operations here in New York State. There must be at least 1 million illegals situated here. Thank you very much. And I love this comment. Hi, Frank. Pete here. Well, hi, Pete. Good morning. I was very encouraged that Minnesota's Medicaid is being held up by Vance and Oz. The $1.4 billion educational aid Minnesota receives from the feds should be next because this is clearly rife with the same corruption. I read that the average Somali high school senior is committing fraud only on a 5th grade level. I'm going to read that one again in the next hour. I like that one. Thank you. Jasmine Crockett. We mentioned this yesterday, and I didn't get a chance to really dive into it. But keep in mind, the polls are showing that Jasmine Crockett may win that primary. Now, it's still Texas, and, there's a lot to overcome there. But Jasmine Crockett, who has made such waves, rising star in the Democrat Party, she was mocked online yesterday for reportedly having armed security guards eject an Atlantic reporter from a Senate campaign event in Texas. And we mentioned that and why I think that's so interesting. She's had a grudge against the Atlantic. The Atlantic wrote a piece that any Republican would love. It was a glowing, soft piece to build her up and build up her bona fides and make her look just really as a better candidate than she is. But she heard that they interviewed some of her colleagues. So she got paranoid. Must be probably, if you're paranoid about someone interviewing your colleagues and your friends, you probably have some skeletons in your closet. You may not be as friendly behind the scenes as you are in front of the camera. So she says that she will get final approval, that she will not let the Atlantic run that piece unless she sees what they said. Keep in mind, she does not have that right. That's not how that works. So the Atlantic, who was so happy to just build her up and prop her up, did have to say, well, right here coming in at the end, this is what she said, and made her look foolish. So she must have a problem with the Atlantic. Journalist Elaine Godfrey had just finished covering the Crockett rally in Lubbock, Texas, and was attempting to interview the Democrat firebrand when she was approached by a woman with a badge. Quote, her team has asked you to leave, the woman said. They just said Elaine from Atlantic, white girl with a hat and notepad. She's interviewing people in the crowd. She's a top-notch hater and will spin. She needs to leave. That's what the security person said to Godfrey when she asked why she was getting booted. The security person said, quote, they just said Elaine from Atlantic, white girl with a hat and notepad. She's interviewing people in the crowd. She's a top-notch hater and will spin. She needs to leave. Can you imagine with how nice that piece from the Atlantic would have been? How this goes again. Joe Semplinsky and I talked about it last week. It goes to show that a Democrat could never be a Republican for one day. The Atlantic is not going to write a hit piece on Jasmine Crockett. They will on Susie Wise, right? They will on J.D. Vance and all the administration. They're not going to on Jasmine Crockett. So if that is your biggest enemy, the Atlantic, you've got issues. The reporter added that 4 guards, at least one of whom was armed, escorted her out of the venue, across the parking lot, and to the edge of a nearby highway where she ordered a car. Crockett had previously clashed with Godfrey, who once wrote a profile of the Texas Democrat that the politician, unsuccessfully tried shutting down. And that was the only embarrassing part of that piece was the embarrassment that Jasmine Crockett brought upon herself, the unforced error, where she said, I'm not going to let you release it, which she cannot do. Chris Saliza wrote, this is so bad by Crockett. Not ready for primetime sort of stuff. That's Chris Saliza, I believe, used to be anyway, from CNN. Progressive journalist Zaid Jilani said, if you think Jasmine Crockett can persuade hundreds of thousands of moderates to conservative Texans to change their voting behavior when she can't even persuade a short liberal white girl reporter? Wow. Tommy Vetter, a former Obama staffer, said the Crockett campaign had armed security guards eject an Atlantic reporter from an event. Why? Crockett looks terrible here. Imagine how paranoid a Democrat would have to think a reporter from the Atlantic is a threat. Exactly. That's how paranoid she is. I think it shows you how she is behind the scenes, meaning that she wants this image that she's trying to create of her out there, not the real Jasmine Crockett. Now, the Congresswoman, in a statement, bizarrely told CBS News that there's no evidence Godfrey was kicked out of her campaign event and widely claimed that the journalist was previously sued for defamation and lost, which Godfrey denied in her write-up. Wow, not ready for prime time. Anyway, gotta take a break. Get ready to wrap up hour number 1. Stay with us.
With the games in full swing, stop in Hesselson's today and see why owning a sauna will bring calmness and stress relief naturally. Infrared, traditional rock saunas, and hybrid saunas. Hesselson's has them all on display in their expanded and remodeled showroom. Better circulation. Detox the skin through sweating. Feeling refreshed and rejuvenated. Now is the time to make every day better with your own sauna, starting at just $39.99. And remember, after 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
You make everything harder.
You're a pest.
Nobody wants you. Nobody likes you.
You are just full of raising questions and never having an answer.
If I can face MS, I can face anything.
A cure for me would be to go back to where I was.
A cure would stop you dead in your tracks.
And when we get you, it's going to be a great day.
It ends here.
MS ends with us.
It's a mild day out there with sunshine, light southwest wind, temperature pushing into the mid and upper 40s as compared to the average high of 39. Mild tonight, in fact, staying above freezing with a low of 34. That means it'll be warmer Saturday morning than it will be in the heat of the day, Sunday and Monday, as we settle into some cooler air briefly. Not stuck with it for the rest of the forecast. Could see a little bit of snowflake fall Saturday night into Sunday.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. Getting ready to wrap up hour number 1. A comment from a viewer. What's the guy who is going to primary Blakeman's position on fracking in New York State? Okay, in full disclosure, this was recorded yesterday. Otherwise, I would have asked him that. He did talk about energy policy. I didn't get a lot of time. And you'll see, I mean, he just had a lot of points that he got to ask very specific questions. We just don't have that kind of time frame here. So I can't remember exactly what he said, but stay tuned. And if you're wondering what I'm talking about, Larry Sharp, who is in the kind of early stages of trying to primary Bruce Blakeman. There is nothing to read between the lines on this. He was in the area. I wanted to play that for you, just like I would love to have Bruce Blakeman on the program. And I think many of you would love to hear from him. So what Mr. Sharp, his name's Larry Sharp, what he has to do is get 14,000 signatures, because Blakeman is right now the Republican nominee for governor. He got, I believe it was 100% or close to 100% of the support at the convention. What the argument that Larry Sharp will make in the next hour is it shouldn't be a convention process, because what happens is the Republican Party chairs throughout the state get together and say, okay, this is our person. And we went through this in the past when we talked about Lee Stefanik. You have to get over a certain amount. If Larry Sharp would have gotten, I think it's over 25% support, he would have been on the ballot as well. But Blakeman got all the support, so he is on the ballot right now without doing the petitions. Now it is Larry Sharp's job, if he wants to primary him, to get those signatures, the 14,000 signatures. Now he signaled, and I'll let you hear it from him, but he will, even if he doesn't get there, he will attempt to run third party as a libertarian. I believe, and he says it in the interview, I believe this is his 4th time running for governor. So you will hear from him in the next hour. We got great comments coming in. Ken gave us an update on the DOT presentation. We'll tell you that in the next hour. We also have a Climate Fact Friday Bob statement coming up at the top of the hour. So stay with us. Hour number 1 in the books. Hour number 2 moments away. We'll be right back.
It's the Jeep President's Day sales event at Chilson Wilcox. Enjoy huge savings on the most awarded SUV brand ever, Jeep. Jeep loyalty means bigger savings for current Jeep and Stellantis owners. Save $8,300 on a 2025 Jeep Grand Cherokee. From Wranglers to Grand Cherokees, every Jeep is priced to move, but these savings won't last forever, and it's Ram Truck Month too. Save $10,500 on a 2026 Ram 1500 and $9,000 on a 2026 Ram 2500. The Jeep President's Day sales event and Ram Truck Month happening now at Chilson Wilcox.
Small businesses are the heart of America. Like you, these entrepreneurs started out with a dream and the drive to build a better life. If you have a small business idea to grow or challenge to face, you don't have to go it alone. Since 1964, SCORE has helped millions of entrepreneurs build their businesses. Today, they are the nation's largest nonprofit source of expert mentoring, resources, and education. Whether you're starting out, building back, or have worked at it for years, SCORE will match you with specialized mentors. Our thousands of volunteers provide the guidance and connections you need for free. Your success is waiting. SCORE is ready to help. Find a mentor today at SCORE.org.
And we welcome you to our number 2 of Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Acom. We are broadcasting live from the Hesselson's studio. We still have a lot to talk about. Hillary Clinton ripping the Oversight Committee. We're not going to, there's a lot of sirens this morning. We're not going to talk too much about that because we have a lot of New York updates that we need to get to as well. So that we'll kind of breeze through those. We have our interview with Larry Sharp coming up. But first, comments from viewers. Ken gives us an update saying, my wife forced me, kicking and screaming, to go to the DOT presentation on the Miracle Mile paving project. The only substantial change to the current 2 lanes in each direction is an extended single lane out of Elmira Heights so they could put in a left turn lane for the golf course. And the railroad bridge is going to be completely rebuilt and raised about 12 inches. It's got to be 12 feet, right? No, 12 inches. No, it's got to be 12 feet. Sorry, I forget what the dash... my high school teacher is, I'm sure, very embarrassed right now. So the bridge rebuilt, it wouldn't be 12. That'd be a lot of cost for 1 foot, right? The bridge rebuild should start around April, May, and the paving around September, October. No disrupting bike lanes are being installed. Well, so that's good. That was kind of the big concern. I know that those, they seem almost like a safety hazard to me. All right. So inches it is. So that's for 1 foot? Wow, I shouldn't have second guessed myself, Ken. I appreciate that. Is going to be, so the railroad bridge is going to be, 12 feet would have been crazy, right? It's going to be completely rebuilt and raised about 12 inches. Okay, thank you. Sorry for that embarrassing statement. I'm going to read this one again from Pete. I was encouraged that Minnesota's Medicaid is being held up by Vance. I was very encouraged that Minnesota's Medicaid is being held up by Vance and Oz. The $1.4 billion educational aid Minnesota receives from the feds should be next because this is clearly rife with the same corruption. I read that the average Somali high school senior is committing fraud only on a 5th grade level. Thank you very much, Pete. Appreciate that. All right, Climate Fact Friday, Bob. Here we go. We look forward to this each week. Good morning, all. Well, good morning, Climate Fact Friday, Bob. Here he is with another Climate Fact Friday. It seems that the CO2 scare goes all the way back to the 1890s in Sweden, when a Swedish scientist said increased CO2 would cause devastation. In fact, Greta Thunberg's father was named after him. Oh, wow. Though there is no direct family link. Within a decade, fellow Swedish scientist named Armstrong put that idea to the test. In 1901, he demonstrated experimentally that adding more CO2 had almost no additional effect on infrared absorption. His findings, published in a Science Review magazine, showed that the gas was already nearly saturated, meaning more of it wouldn't trap much extra heat. Armstrong concluded that it had been overestimated, that CO2's influence by mixing its effects with those of water vapor, the far stronger greenhouse gas. A century later, the science hasn't changed, only the storytelling. Is Al Gore Swedish? Have a great weekend. Stay safe. Go Bills. Well, thank you, Climate Fact Friday, Bob. All right, Sean Hannity unleashed on Gavin Newsom, accusing him of being a propagandist for President Joe Biden, when the governor gushed over as a father figure at a recent promotional event in his memoir, Young Man in a Hurry. Yes, Gavin Newsom has a new memoir out, Young Man in a Hurry. Hannity slammed Newsom as repulsive for being silent about his cognitive decline during the re-election campaign. You were one of Joe Biden's biggest propagandists during his campaign. You were silent about his cognitive decline even after his disastrous debate. Remember what you texted me, Gavin? Ooh, signal that there could be a damning text. Then you went on national TV and flat out lied for him. Hannity also blasted Newsom's support for immigration policies that allowed millions of unvetted illegals into the country, including criminals. Newsom's press office countered that Newsom was loyal to the former president. Sean Hannity is having a complete meltdown because Governor Gavin Newsom was loyal to President Joe Biden, even when it wasn't politically convenient. Loyalty is incomprehensible to someone like Sean, whose entire career depends on manufactured panic, nightly outrage, and whatever talking point the Epstein class beams into his earpiece before airtime. Man, they are trying hard. But Newsom was one of Biden's biggest supporters. A lot of people thought that he was campaigning for Biden so hard because then if Biden did drop out, he would be ready to be the candidate. Well, we know enough about Newsom. Okay, so Hillary Clinton was ripped at the Oversight Committee after chaotic deposition on Jeffrey Epstein, UFOs, and Pizzagate. What? Former Secretary of State Hillary Clinton went after members of the House Oversight Committee yesterday, accusing them of performing partisan political theater by subpoenaing her for fruitless testimony. I guess the whole time it was said that basically she just kept saying, "You'll have to ask my husband." The closed-door deposition stretched for more than 6 hours, but was derailed briefly by Representative Lauren Boebert, who inappropriately leaked a photo of Clinton from inside the hearing room. She leaked it to a conservative influencer who then shared it. Clinton said, "I think it's fair to say that the vast majority of people who had contact with him before his criminal plea in 2008 were like most people. They did not know what he was doing. And I think that it was exactly what my husband will testify to." Okay. In her opening statement, the former First Lady called the Oversight Committee's Epstein investigation an abdication of duty and an insult to the American people, before suggesting alternative lines of inquiry for the GOP-led panel. That included pressing the committee to dig deep into President Trump's ties to the deceased Epstein, while also ripping Republicans for engaging in a probe designed to, quote, protect one political party. "You have compelled me to testify, fully aware that I have no knowledge that would assist your investigation, in order to distract attention from President Trump's actions and to cover them up despite legitimate calls for answers. Trump and Epstein were friends for years, but had a falling out, blah, 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 blah." Enough on that. When asked how Maxwell, why she was at Chelsea's wedding, she said, quote, "She came as the +1, the guest of someone who was invited." Oversight Chairman James Comer said there were a lot of questions we asked that we weren't satisfied with what we got. The number of times that she said, "I don't know, you'll have to ask my husband," was more than a dozen. Now, if you're not aware, by now Bill Clinton's deposition begins today. One of the things I learned today is if you really have specific questions about the Clinton Global Initiative or the relationship between the Clintons and Jeffrey Epstein and Maxwell, you got to ask Bill Clinton, said Representative Scott Perry. After her lapse in protocol, Boebert also was happy to dodge questions, saying, "I just returned to my hotel room and installed the BleachBit software." Okay. "I guess in regards to taking photos, I do not recall." Boebert also doubled down later in a reference to the 2012 Benghazi terror attack that took the lives of 4 U.S. citizens, including Ambassador Chris Stevens. "No U.S. ambassadors were harmed in the taking of today's photo," she said. At the end of the deposition, Clinton mentioned that Republicans also grilled her about UFOs and a series of questions about Pizzagate, one of the most vile, bogus conspiracy theories. "I'm not going to do it again," she said. They had a chance to do it in public. Now, Clinton and Comer said a video and transcript will be produced as soon as possible. Both Republicans and Democrats on the oversight panel voted to subpoena Bill and Hillary. We know all about that. Okay. We got to take a break. When we come back, we're going to read some of your comments, get your thoughts on Clinton's. I mean, it sounds like everything was just, "Oh, you're going to have to ask my husband." CNN presents it this way. Hillary Clinton says she answered every question on Epstein and decries GOP for keeping deposition private. And Stephen Collinson saying why the Clintons' ordeal might end up backfiring on Trump. No. Stephen Collinson has that opinion? Video of the former first couple's separate testimony is expected to be released within days. That will allow Americans to witness a return to the political stage of one of the most compelling double acts in modern politics. But this one will return to the spotlight that both Clintons would have preferred to avoid. Well, they were still in the spotlight. Yeah, unfortunately, I mean, even the New York Times admitted it. This was another stand by your man moment for Hillary Clinton. It's also kind of interesting to have the flashbacks to other hearings with the Clintons. So getting your thoughts on that. But we're going to talk about New York State issues when we return. We can talk more about Clinton, but of course, behind closed doors, not a lot to report on there, but definitely newsworthy. We will be right back. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
An albino baby buffalo was born.
Nearly 500 kilos of cocaine has been seized in a bus.
Day one of the National Glider Competition.
Do you have fever? Are you dreaming of warmer weather? Now's the time to start enjoying the benefits of hot water therapy during Hesselson's Cabin Fever Reliever Hot Tub Sale. With 0% interest financing and additional sales incentives, Hesselson's makes it easier to start making every day better today. Huge savings on odds and end models, 0% financing, locally owned and operated since 1955. Why wait? Now is the best time to buy that hot tub you've always wanted during Hesselson's Cabin Fever Reliever Hot Tub Sale going on now. After 70 years, it's still fun to poke in the corners at Hesselson's.
I was diagnosed at 65.
37. Earlier than most.
Every 9 minutes, someone is diagnosed with Parkinson's disease.
And every one of them can turn to the American Parkinson Disease Association. Visit apdaparkinson.org to learn more and show your support today.
There have always been a few, ready to fight and win. Since 1775, these few have been Marines, and they come from across this land to defend the future of our nation. This year, our Corps celebrates 250 years, and Marines are proud to serve this country, each other, and all that is still to come for America.
A mild day out there with sunshine, light southwest wind, temperature pushing into the mid and upper 40s as compared to the average high of 39. Mild tonight, in fact, staying above freezing with a low of 34. That means it'll be warmer Saturday morning than it will be in the heat of the day, Sunday and Monday, as we settle into some cooler air briefly. Not stuck with it for the rest of the forecast. Could see a little bit of snowflake fall Saturday night.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Marcus Street in Corning. Let's go to some viewer comments, shall we? The present-day Democrat Party is a party built on lies, deception, and fabrications. How can some people not see the truth of this? Comment from a different viewer. Newsom is Joe Biden Jr. His whole story now is nothing but Joe Biden's life when he was younger, nothing but lies. He talks how hard he had it when he was a kid to start a business. He's so full of, we'll say, baloney, and he's even funny. He's got to be pals with J. Paul Getty's son, and J. Paul Getty funded his first winery. Yeah, he's trying to make a completely different narrative about his life than what is actually factual, and that's why he released a memoir ahead of things. It's also interesting to hear about some of his background that he's not talking about. Some of his relationships and things like that, which I'm sure we'll hear. Well, the media won't report on it. But a comment from a different viewer. If Hillary doesn't stand by Bill, they both go down. Comment from a different viewer. Clinton will lie. Remember, he did not have sex with that woman. Thank you very much. Comment from a different viewer. The Clintons act like they know that the fix is in and they are untouchable. And so far, it's validated. Why should we think that anything else will come of this? Could it be that somebody else wants to be disappeared? Yeah, they do act untouchable. They do act invincible. They always have. And let's face it, kind of always have been. Granted, Hillary didn't win the presidency, and that's huge. And that is the biggest victory over the years of Clinton's. But at the same time, yeah, they are untouchable. Ken writes in, and thank you, Ken, for clarifying. Apparently, the precast concrete superstructure of the bridge is showing signs of deterioration, so they're completely removing the old bridge and installing a new steel superstructure, one side at a time, to keep one lane in both directions active at all times. They need to raise it 1 foot, thank you for spelling it out, to allow enough room under it for train clearance, because the steel superstructure is taller than the precast concrete superstructure was. Well, thank you. That's why I had such a trouble there, because I thought 1 foot, that's a lot of work for 1 foot, but it makes more sense now, and 12 feet was too much. So I kind of went into like a robot with my asked a tough question. Smoke was coming out of my ears. I wanted to mention this before we take a break, because I have to take a break early because we spend quite a bit of time with Larry Sharp, and I want to give you kind of a rundown of that. But I thought this was nice. Just a couple of friendly faces here I thought I would show you. Assemblyman Phil Palmisano recently welcomed a group of officials from NASCAR and Watkins Glen International Racetrack to Albany. Representing WGI were President Don Berlew, our good friend here on Frankly Speaking, Fiona Krenzer, and Michelle Benjamin. Representing NASCAR was Dan Klintensky. They were in Albany to promote a new bipartisan motorsport legislative working group. The working group aims to recognize the importance of motorsport to New York State's culture and economy, as well as celebrate and advocate for motorsports and community racetracks. And I know we've got a lot of NASCAR fans out there and WGI fans. Here you go. Look at that nice picture in Albany. This is what Assemblyman Palmisano had to say. It was my honor to welcome Don, Dan, Fiona, and Michelle to the state capitol. WGI is a gem, and having WGI in my district, I know firsthand what WGI not only contributes to our local regional economy, but to the entire state economy as well. We have more than 20 motorsports venues across the state. I understand just how vital they are to local communities and economy. Our bipartisan working group and I will advocate for a better and stronger partnership between the state and the motorsport industry in New York to help ensure that preservation and continued success, and to help keep such a great tradition alive. So thank you to the Assemblyman. A great picture there. We do appreciate it. We've had a lot of updates from Mr. Ways and Means, Assemblyman Phil Palmisano. By the way, I wish Phil was here right now so I could talk to him about this. A climate law mandate. The New York State Energy and Development Authority sent a memo to Kathy Hochul warning that the cost of complying with the state's Climate Leadership and Community Protection Act would cost New Yorkers $4,000 in higher energy bills. Wow. Governor Hochul suggested on Thursday that the cost of fully complying to the state's climate law would cost average New Yorkers up to $3,500 each. A new memo shared with City and State from the New York State Energy Research and Development Authority places the estimated cost for upstate gas and oil households even higher. Upstate affected even more. Wow. The memo on the likely cost of CLCPA compliance, dated February 26th, lays out average cost to New Yorkers by 2031 under a hypothetical cap and invest system that would be necessary to meet the emissions benchmark laid out in the climate law. Hochul was expected to release rules for a cap and trade investment program last year, but she has continued to delay them. According to NYSERDA's analysis, upstate gas and oil households could see over $4,100 in gross cost increases if the states make no changes to the law with current energy equipment. In New York City, gas households would see $2,300 of added cost, and gas at the pump could jump by an additional $2.23 per gallon. If fully implemented with regulations to meet the 2030 targets, CLCPA's original design, differing accounting standards from the internationally accepted approach, and inflexible near-term targets would combine to yield high costs to New York households and businesses. Addressing this cost escalation is essential to delivering a policy that supports affordable and economic competitiveness and is necessary to ensure continued progress on decarbonization policy. Wow, that's a lot of wonky language. All right, so there you are. Republicans jumped on the analysis immediately as vindication their warnings were correct. Quote, they're finally admitting that what we've all known and said all along, said former Representative Mark Molinaro, who is looking to run for assembly again. This isn't climate policy. It's unaffordable and reckless. The state Senate Republican Conference, meanwhile, wrote on X that the state is admitting that climate policy from Democrats will cost you more money. All right, we got to take a break. When we return, we do have some other New York State updates. But when we return, we are going to hear from Larry Sharp. Again, to just give you kind of the rundown, Larry Sharp is right now in the very early process of getting signatures, 14,000 signatures, to primary Bruce Blakeman. Because remember, Bruce Blakeman is the Republican Party nominee for governor. Okay, it's as simple as that. He got in the system as the way it is now. He got, I think it was 100% of the conference or the committee vote. So he is the candidate. Now, if if Larry Sharp gets the 14,000 signatures, gets on the ballot, then there is a primary. If he doesn't, he signals that he will run third party. That's where we're at. This is no kind of endorsement in any way, shape, or form. This is nothing else other than an interview with a gentleman that is attempting to run for governor, just like we would have Bruce Blakeman in this chair, just like we would have Governor Hochul in this chair, if I'm being honest, to have a conversation. That's what the show is all about. So that is why Larry Sharp is on the broadcast, because this is earlier than most interviews that I would do, because he is not a candidate as of yet. He hasn't got the signatures. We don't normally do it that way, but because of the schedule and his announcement that we made, I think about a week ago, that he was going to attempt this process, I thought it made it newsworthy enough and interesting enough to talk with him. So that's coming up when we return. Stay with us. This is Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox.
Some people who need Social Security disability benefits go to their hearing alone and get turned down. Not every lawyer will appeal a denial after your hearing. I will. I'm Peter Gorton of Lockman & Gorton. I help people win benefits by appealing their denials, including in federal court. But your time to appeal is limited, so call my office now.
Lockman & Gordon, 1-800-698-0567.
I'm Joe Andreessen, linebacker number 44.
And I'm William Attar. I love all things 4.
We're teaming up to help raise money for Build Promise, because when someone goes down, it's not time to give up.
It's time to give. Our community is known for giving. Please donate at BuildPromise.com. Any amount helps, but we really love donations that end in 4.
Help those in need at BuildPromise.com. That's BuildPromise.com.
When a child is fighting a critical illness, one truth touches us all. Every child deserves a childhood. A wish sparks a ripple of hope that transforms communities far and wide. And when we grant wishes together, we create a movement of kindness, strength, and unity. Yay! Become a wishmaker today and be part of a journey that truly changes lives.
It's a mild day out there with sunshine, light southwest wind, temperature pushing into the mid and upper 40s as compared to the average high of 39. Mild tonight, in fact, staying above freezing with a low of 34. That means it'll be warmer Saturday morning than it will be in the heat of the day, Sunday and Monday, as we settle into some cooler air briefly. Not stuck with it for the rest of the forecast. Could see a little bit of snowflake fall Saturday night into Sunday.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. Welcome back to Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV, Big Fox. I'm your host, Frank Aiken. We are broadcasting from the Hesselson studio, and in that studio, we have Larry Sharp. Welcome to the show.
What's going on, Frank? How are you, brother?
We got a lot going on. I just got to mention, the sun was so bright as you arrived that we had to move you from our different locations. So
I brought the sun with me. Well, that is how popular I am. You know, I'm going to change the world. I bring the sun.
Where have you been the last 6 months?
I should have come up here earlier.
Yeah, exactly. Well, first of all, let's introduce who's your guest.
It's my daughter. My daughter Josie is here.
You don't have to get on camera. Just want to say hi. Yeah. Well, you can. Go over and say hi.
Yes.
There you go.
I'm Josie.
Campaign manager?
There you go. Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
So let's do a little clarification.
I actually bring my family around a lot.
That's great.
I have my team is all across New York and also outside of New York. I have people who are outside of New York with. You know, with today's technology, I don't have to have everybody in the state. And usually I have a driver who's really local, or sometimes my oldest daughter will drive. She's an EMT in New York City, and sometimes I can get her to come drive for me. So it depends. I bring my kids around when I can. I bring my family, my friends around when I can. This has to be a family affair. It's a big deal. Yeah. Something to remember. I'm the only guy running that the government isn't paying to run.
Good point. You didn't take the matching funds?
Well, I will take the matching funds eventually.
Yeah.
But I'm saying the government,
Right now,
I'm not getting a salary to run. Right?
Gotcha.
I have to, this is my life now.
Yeah, gotcha.
Right? Every time I run, it's my third time running. I don't work. I just go and cross the state, say hi, meet people, learn things. I don't just sit around and get paid and then go on TV only.
Sure. So let's talk about this to clarify, because people are confused. There's been so much really confusion around this whole gubernatorial race, don't you think? Because we had Lawler at first, and then there was Stefanik and Blakeman stayed, and so
to be fair to Lawler never actually committed.
Right. It was just speculation.
There was a lot of speculation because he's very popular. Just to be fair to Lawler, he did not actually commit.
You're right.
He didn't commit.
Right. So a lot of questions there. But now we have recently the Republican conference. They chose Blakeman to
They coordinated Blakeman.
I wonder if you use that word.
Yes.
But they coordinated Blakeman. Yes. So what does this mean for you? What is the process from here on out?
The New York State leadership of the Republican Party has decided to abandon democracy and abandon the state. They've decided instead to coordinate someone who has no chance of victory whatsoever. There was no democracy, no primary, no nothing. Bruce Blakeman is basically Mitt Romney. And when I say that is, if you remember when Obama, the charismatic Democrat, showed up, the Republicans said, well, throw Mitt Romney against him. That'll work. Yeah, well, here comes Mamdani, another charismatic Democrat. Same thing happens. What does the GOP do? Well, put Mitt Romney, too, up. And then we'll use the same way that Kamala Harris did. We'll take the Kamala Harris of the New York GOP and turn him into Mitt Romney, and that'll work. And that's been their idea. It was a terrible concept. It was a coronation. Most people across the state don't even know who he is. They know me more than they know him. I'm the one who goes out and sees people. And so now what I have to do, I have to take that popularity that I have right now and go out and get 15,000 signatures from registered Republicans.
Okay.
If 15,000 Republicans give me signatures, then there will be a forced primary. And when that primary happens on June 23rd, I will beat Bruce Blakeman. And when I beat Bruce Blakeman, we will have an actual candidate that people across the state know, trust, has been around for 8 years, and more importantly, can get Democratic votes. I am not endorsed by Trump, which in New York State's a good thing, right? Oklahoma, bad thing. South Carolina, bad thing. New York State, a good thing. And I also know from my previous runs, I already have data. 30% of the people who vote for me are registered Democrats.
Interesting.
30% are registered either as no party affiliation or independent, and 40% are Republicans. So when I win the primary, I get all the Republican votes, plus Democrats and independents. I get tons of independents. That's my biggest chunk because I'm an independent, right? For two terms, I ran as a libertarian.
Right.
So with that in mind, I know this is a winnable race. Not just that, I'm also going to wind up getting the libertarian line on top of it. So I'll have a third line.
Okay.
Which means people who are in the state who are Democrats, who don't like Republicans, who are like, oh, I don't want to vote for Republican. No worries. Vote for me as libertarian. And they have already. So I know that's true. This is what I'm up against. June 23rd will be the primary. I'll need 15,000 signatures before April. So we're going to start working on that this weekend and then moving on. We'll be working on it for that. And once that hits, we're going to be rocking and rolling. Yeah, and people can come see me and talk to me and hang out with me whenever they want. In fact, I will be in Elmira tomorrow, Saturday at 6:30 at the WMC on West Water Street. Yes. So please come by if you guys want to come by and say hi to me.
And what's, because that's a lot of signatures, let's face it.
It is.
And I don't care if you're running for really town clerk all the way up. The time frame isn't long enough, in my opinion.
Not at all.
And you're talking about a huge number. Do you have a grassroots campaign working at that?
Yes.
What's that
We
look
have
like?
two things. It's very challenging. You're totally correct. Something to understand, and most New Yorkers don't understand, why can we not have change? We can't have change because our ballot access laws are draconian. And when I say that, I'm not exaggerating. People don't know this, but 2024, New York State was the only state in the entire union that did not have an independent on the ballot for president.
Interesting.
Only one.
Yeah.
And in 2022 was the first time in almost 100 years we didn't have an independent on the ballot for governor. And if I don't get in the ballot this time, we won't have one this time either. We've destroyed all independent parties. We've made a system to where only the elites can run. So only people who run are the current person holding it and someone else holding office. That's it. And then, of course, since we don't have primaries anymore, Democrats haven't had a primary, Republicans don't have a primary, there's no voting whatsoever. Right. The parties decide which aristocrat we get the chance to vote on. And this is why there's no change. So you are correct. It's very hard. It should change. And when I'm governor, I will change it. Access to the ballot is not a thing that should be difficult. It should be very easy. Lots of countries have lots of different ways. California has 10, 20, 30 people on the ballot somehow, and they all survive. You can have multiple people on the ballot. And here's the issue. If Across New York State, every time we have some kind of some kind of independent on the ballot, over 500,000 people vote for that person. Now you might go, wait a minute, 500,000 people? Yeah, they know that guy's not going to win. The 100,000 people who voted for me last time knew I wasn't going to win.
Sure.
But they voted for me anyway. What does that mean? It's a protest vote. Well, they could stay home. That's apathy. A protest vote is I show up and I vote against the two major parties. That is literally our freedom of speech. That's what it is. More choice on the ballot is American. And the fact that we print ballots and stop it, that's not in the Constitution. Parties made that up. We have to stop that. You're completely correct.
Now, would you have ran if Stefanik was still in it because it means that much to you to change the system, or is it about running for governor?
Yes, I want to change the system. So it's important for me to run no matter what. I would have wanted to get the Libertarian Party ballot access again as I did in 2018.
Okay.
But what made me make the actual Republican change was Stefanik dropping out. Stefanik obviously, had her own issues, obviously. That's why one reason she dropped out, obviously. But the issue is she was far more popular across the state. People actually liked Stefanik. People knew her. They liked her. She had a chance at making some impact. Now, could she have won? I don't know. The Republicans haven't won any statewide election in this state in 24 years.
Yeah,
the Republican Party right now, if we don't make a change, which is why I'm doing this, if we don't make a change, there will be no resistance, none. We will have a single party state, and the Republicans will not be able to run any candidate statewide ever again. I'm not joking. Right now, and people don't know this, in New Mexico, the Republicans do not have a candidate for governor. Governor, statewide. Republicans, why bother? The state is so deep blue, they can't get anyone to run. The opposite's true right now in Nebraska. In Nebraska, Democrats, states so red, Democrats have no candidate for senator of U.S. Senate. No candidate. Wow. New York State is 2 cycles from the Republican Party never being able to run a statewide candidate. Not governor, not senator, not AG, nothing again. I want to break that. We do that by, believe it or not, following what Trump actually did. Trump created a coalition in 2024, right? He had Elon Musk, he had RFK Jr., he had Tulsi Gabbard.
Right.
That coalition is the answer. You have a coalition against the establishment. I'm that coalition guy. I can bring people from other parties. I can bring people together who aren't just worried. But more importantly, there are a bunch of Republicans in this state who've given up. They're ready to leave. They're waiting for either an elderly parent to pass away, they're waiting for someone to graduate, or they're waiting to retire, and they're going to pack up and they're going to leave so they don't bother voting. Some parts of North Country, 1 in 6 vote. Wow. That's how bad it is. Wow. Well, you know who motivates them? I do. A new guy, fresh blood with ideas. Ideas on energy, ideas on taxation, ideas on localism, ideas on farming, ideas on all these things, ownership concepts, housing. I would ask you, if you're listening right now, what is the current plan for the Republicans to fix this state? Don't bother thinking there is none. You don't have an answer. No one does. They don't either. Why? They're not going to win. They're going to try. There is no answer. Their answer is, Hochul is bad. That's their answer. Hochul's terrible. They've been yelling in this state. New York GOP leadership has been yelling Hochul bad or Cuomo bad for 20 years and losing. You think they learn? The Democrats nationally have been yelling Trump bad for 10 years, and he's president twice. It doesn't work. Yelling other guy bad does not work. Right. You've got to have some kind of answer, some kind of plan.
And to your point about the poll, the new Marist poll, I was looking it up as you were speaking. 1 in 3 New Yorkers, this isn't party-wise, but 1 in 3 New Yorkers plan to move out of the state due to out-of-hand cost of living.
Yes, that's the norm. Yeah. We are losing over 100,000 people every single year. They're leaving. And the sad part for anyone who's not an establishment Democrat, right? If you are a non-establishment Democrat, or if you are Republican or conservative or libertarian, anything non-established Democrat, all those people are leaving. The people who are staying are establishment Democrats. This is why Cuomo could say, if you're conservative, there's no room for you in my state. His words. Right. This is why Hochul can say, if you vote Republican, you're anti-American, you're anti-woman. She can say that. Why? There aren't enough Republicans in that state to stop her. You may not know this, only 23% of registered voters in New York State are Republican. 30% are either non-affiliated or independent. So independents are bigger than Republicans. Republicans are third in this state. Yeah. And Democrats are 47%. So if you can't get Democrats and independents, you can't win in this state. You can't make changes I'm talking about. Right? This state has to create, to deal with the biggest point, which is what you just said, cost of living. 2 aspects. Housing, 3 aspects, sorry. Housing, taxes, and energy. Those are 3 biggest ones. Sure. You got to touch all those. One way you touch those. Starting a New York State social trust. This is a sovereign fund for New York State. If we start a sovereign fund for New York State, already Singapore has one, Norway has one, it will change everything. Why? The first thing you want to do with that is once you raise enough cash, should be within a year or two, you pay for education right out of the sovereign fund. The sovereign fund is not part of the government. You follow the Singapore model. It is a separate company with a separate CEO and a separate board. Otherwise, the government just takes the money, right? You remember, like the lottery, just takes the money. So you can't have that. Once it pays for education, why is there a need for school tax?
Right.
There isn't. When school tax goes away, depending upon where you are in the state, 50% of your property tax is gone. In that area, it depends where you are. Some people it's more, some people it's less. But imagine a 50% property cut tax within the next 2 years. What a change that would have. People might actually want to stay. That will change hugely. Still not done when it comes to taxation. Right now, New York State income tax is around 4%, depending upon where you are in the state, a little bit higher and lower different areas. Straight 4%, goes down 0.5% every year for 8 years down to 0. So within 8 years, we are a zero income tax state. Why do we do it that way? We have been so much debt, we're so bloated, you can't just end income tax. Realistically, we would just collapse. There's just so much debt. The state's in such bad shape. But can you wean them off? Yes. As a social trust grows, the taxation goes down. So you can still create issues, fix things, do things like that while lowering the tax base. And something else, the tax rate goes down so people have hope. What people don't have in New York State is hope. But I'm still not done. If we then actually pay directly for schooling and there's no school tax, local people control their own school districts. Right? There's no need for state strings or federal strings. So if you want to have civics in your school, you can. If you want to have shop in your school, you can, right? Now we can stop forcing our kids into college who shouldn't go to college. One of our biggest issues in New York State is we don't have enough tradesmen. Who's talking about that? Nobody is. Nobody even cares. Well, I think they throw all the migrants in here. Of course they do. We need tradesmen. We've been lying to our students for decades, telling them that college is the only answer for success. College is an answer for success, but not the only one. Lots of people go into trades and make tons of money. Happens all the time. Well, we can't. We've been lying to our kids for years, telling them they have to go to college. Why? High schools get paid based upon college placement rates.
Right.
So they get cash from the federal government based upon putting kids into college. So why would a guidance counselor tell your kid to go into trade school? He doesn't get paid.
Right.
Of course not. The entire system tells them not to do that. Well, now when those strings are gone, a counselor will go, no, you might be good to go into trades. Maybe you should be a plumber. Maybe you should be a carpenter. Maybe you should build housing. We need tradesmen all across this state. That could happen too. But I'm still not done. I then got to add another piece if I could. Energy. Trump came up with an idea, which I think he stole off of me, and I'm going to take full credit for him, saying that he wants AI companies to be able to build their own energy.
Right.
Now, theoretically, that's good, but in practice, it's bad. Let me tell you why in practice it's bad. Because he misses one important point. Ownership of the facility.
Right.
If I'm sitting here in Chemung County, or I'm in, I'm hanging out here in Monroe County, and all of a sudden someone says, hey, I want to put an AI plant, an AI processing center. I go, oh, no, I don't want that. I'm going to raise my prices. Oh, don't worry. We're going to add on top of it a nice, smelly coal plant.
Right.
Oh, I'm not happy about that.
Sure.
Here's the answer. There's about 12, 13 spots in New York State right now. We can put a nuclear power plant in them right now. Within 1 year to 2 years, up and running. Either thorium, which is the new style that China's using right now, which impossible to melt down, or you use the ones that are modular. So if something goes wrong, you pull one out, you can add more, that kind of stuff. Sure. Either one works. You put it in, but here's the issue. All the government does is lease the land out.
Okay.
The AI companies can build it if they want to. They'll go together with energy companies, they'll build it. But here's the rule. You can build it, you can put all your AI or your blockchain stuff right around it, connect directly to it so there's no grid issues. But 50% of that is owned by the local municipality who agrees to it.
Okay.
If the municipality agrees to it, they get 50% ownership, which means profits and voting. Why does that matter? Profits, number one. At the end of the year, if they're making tons of money selling all this energy, the people are like, fine, I don't mind. I don't get a bunch of jobs, but I get a bunch of cash. So either I do one of three things with that cash. One, I create a local credit union, which is funded by the energy plant, which means now I can give 1% loans for people who want to start businesses or want to revitalize their main street, or housing. They want to start building housing, whatever the case may be. Or just get a check. Or I get cheap energy. Who cares? But now I've got 13 different energy resources there that are owned by local people. They are all getting paid. So now they have an asset. People are wealthy not because they have big salaries. They're wealthy because they have assets. Start giving people assets. With that in mind, now I've got 13 different power plants that can get as big as they want to get. What does that mean? Competition. So everybody's energy prices go down because you can sell to anybody you want.
Right.
Also voting rights. Why? Right now we know AI is not going away. We know people aren't going to, the government's not going to allow us in any way, shape, or form to regulate it. Well, we will control it through the voting of energy. Energy controls AI. If we're voting, we have leverage. We can tell the AI companies, I don't want you doing this, I don't want you doing that, because we can vote and go, no energy for you. That's a key aspect. Last piece I'll bring up, and this is for people who are in tough spots. We've got to focus when it comes to building new housing on rent to own. Rent to own is the key. Starting it with actually believe it public housing, and then moving from that. We want people to have an ownership mindset.
Stake in it, yeah.
Yes, more ownership is the way we can save this place. If we can save New York, we can save the nation. Now, you might go, Larry, I like idea 1, but I don't like idea 2, whatever. Here's what I want you, if you're watching this right now, or listening to this right now. What governor candidate can give you actual answers? They can't. There's no plan. I just gave you plans. You have me on the actual debate stage, you will have to have actual plans. You have to talk about it, make things happen. I'm about fixing this state. I'm not about just winning again or whatever the case may be, or keeping my party in power or whatever. I'm about fixing this state.
Yeah. Before we go, how are you going to get the info out? You said, I mean, you've got a lofty goal of how many signatures you need.
Yep.
You crossed that. How do you get the word out? I know Blakeman said that he's going to focus on upstate. There's the argument, well, Stefanik wouldn't have had to do that. She had probably. So he'll be focused on upstate. What would your game plan be?
I actually have the opposite. Upstate and popular.
Yeah, okay, there you go.
I have the opposite problem as Blakeman has, right? I'm actually opposite. But most people, I still get recognized. If I'm walking around like a Stewart's around here, people, oh my God, Larry Sharp, how you doing? People still recognize me. So upstate's not my problem. I have to focus more on downstate to get. I have to get about 30% of New York City voters to say yes. It's about 30%. If I get 30%, it will work. Now the advantage is I'm already campaigning. I do events in the city. I do events all across the area. But I have one other advantage that Blakeman does not have, and neither does Kathy Hochul. And this is what Trump did in 2024. I'm the podcast guy.
Right.
I've already been on Joe Rogan. I've already been on Glenn Beck. I've already been on Patrick Bet-David. I've already been on Tim Pool. Right. I can just call him up and go back on again. Once I get on the ballot, I go back on again. The podcast and the social media is what I have better than both Kathy Hochul and better than Blakeman. That is my advantage they don't have. That will help me out tremendously. If I make that happen from, as you know, once you're in a social media world, that gets you into more terrestrial issues, right? Oh, he was on this, let's bring him on ABC. Oh, let's bring him on Fox. Oh, he was on this, let's bring him on CNN, right? That begins to happen as that works. So, and I've already been on, if you remember, in 2024, I was a surrogate in the media for RFK Jr.
Oh, yeah, okay.
So I've already been on all those shows.
Forgot about that, yeah.
Yep, I've been on all those shows already. I've been on old TVs. They don't know who I am. And in 2016, I was a surrogate for Gary Johnson when he ran for president of Libertarian. So, again, I have those connections. Once I'm on the ballot, you didn't see me in 2022 because I was sued off the ballot.
Yeah, okay.
When I get on the ballot in 2026, you'll see me in all those shows all over again.
Great.
That's the advantage.
So before we go, how can people get involved? I know they can come see you in Elmira, WMC North. It's 6:30 tomorrow. What's the best way to find out more?
LarrySharp.com. Well, here's the best thing. You can just Google Larry Sharp. My name is not that popular. I am the most popular Larry Sharp in the country. And it's Larry Sharp with an E. And the E stands for electable.
Perfect. Thank you so much for giving us so much time, and we'll talk soon.
Have a good one.
All right. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking after this.
Nearly 500 kilos of cocaine has been seized in a bust.
Thousands lined the pier at Seneca Harbor. Race weekend brought thousands to Watkins Glen International.
Hundreds and horseheads joined other cities around the country on Saturday for the No Kings protest.
It's the home of creativity. Release your inner audio engineer. Create with the 3D printer. Make your clothing ideas come together with our sewing machine rentals. Or come to the library event nights to chat with those within your community. All with your library card. Go to your local library today.
It's the Jeep President's Day sales event at Chilson Wilcox. Enjoy huge savings on the most awarded SUV brand ever, Jeep. Jeep loyalty means bigger savings for current Jeep and Stellantis owners. Save $8,300 on a 2025 Jeep Grand Cherokee. From Wranglers to Grand Cherokees, every Jeep is priced to move, but these savings won't last forever, and it's Ram Truck Month too. Save $10,500 on a 2026 Ram 1500 and $9,000 on a 2026 Ram 2500. The Jeep President's Day sales event and Ram Truck Month happening now at Chilson Wilcox.
You know that children growing up with poor air quality have smaller lungs and higher rates of asthma than children that grow up with good air quality. And unfortunately, poor communities have poor air quality. IQ Air Foundation is working to change this. Today, the IQ Air Foundation provides filtration technology to schools with poor air quality through our Clean Air for Kids program. Our goal is to help over 50,000 school children every year breathe over 90% cleaner air indoors, helping to level the playing field, reduce barriers to learning, reduce sick days, and increase test scores. Mitigating poor air quality is key to environmental justice. Help Clean Air for Kids reach more children at iqairfoundation.org.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson's studio here on Marcus Street Recording. As you can imagine, we got to take a break already. Ran a little bit late there, but we got some viewer comments, and I got tea at the worst time. I apologize. Got a fresh cup of tea, and I didn't realize we were completely out of time for that interview. So it was pre-recorded yesterday. I can take a sip right now. And he was in town, so that's what that is in reference to. We've got a few viewer comments before we go to break. I'm trying to put them all together here. Some of them are different than just our interview with Larry Sharp, so let's get to it. Rick writes in, good morning, Frank. Good morning, Rick. Well, I heard some of your Trumpsters barking about my takeaways from the State of the Trump address. My reply to the peanut gallery is talk is cheap. Silence your critics with results. I don't think Trump has it in him. Have a great weekend. Have a great weekend, Rick. Good morning, Frank. Good morning. The Clintons are the gift that just keep giving. Isn't the +1 guest that the one that nobody really knows? The one that they come with is the known guest? The guest list must have gotten deleted with that server mishap. Yeah, it is interesting that we don't know who that. Apparently, Maxwell was the +1, but we're not told who the main guest was in that scenario. Comment from a different viewer. Wow, Mr. Sharp is a fast talker, and while I can appreciate some of what he said, it was unsettling to me because of the quick talk and a bit of obnoxious in his confidence. Thank you very much. Well, we're getting a lot of mixed bag of reviews about Mr. Sharp. After Stefanik dropped out, if Blakeman didn't get 100%, it would have been a huge red flag. That's true, but every once in a while you get that one little kind of rogue group where you get one maybe. Anyway, but you're right. Another comment, if Larry Sharp wins, I may not sell my remaining 2 properties. Thank you, Larry. You have fantastic ideas. Mark writes, I don't care for Larry Sharp. I'm voting Bruce Blakeman. Thank you very much. Comment from a different viewer. I would ask Mr. Sharp to investigate Hochul's New York Helps program, hiring unqualified individuals while overlooking any promotion of existing staff. In reality, it's union busting. Problem in New York State is the public employees unions are already corrupt and sold out to the state long ago. Thank you very much. And Ken writes in, I like Larry Sharp's energy. He says he wants to change things for the better. I would need to hear more of his ideas, but sadly, Republicans aren't getting enough votes with one candidate running. When one Republican and one independent are running, they will split the votes, you're absolutely right, and get very little Dems to cross over. Larry's only chance would be if he was a blend between Republican ideas and Democrat ideas. I would be okay with bringing New York back to more conservative values a little at a time. New York is dying from 1,000 Democrat paper cuts one at a time. If we start to heal one at a time, both sides could be on board with that. Thank you very much. Yeah, if he runs third party, because that happened a little bit with, I think it was Molinaro. And Molinaro run, Larry Sharp got decent numbers. I don't think it was enough to make the difference to a Molinaro win, but yeah, it will split the ticket. Or keep your idea. What a mixed bag. That was great. Tell me more of your thoughts, because we got to take. Oh, here we go. Jack says, good morning, Frank. Well, good morning, Jack. I appreciate that. I think Larry Sharp is a good mix and would reach across both aisles. Thank you very much. All right, we got to take a short break. Stay with us. We'll be right back with Frankly Speaking here on WYDC TV. Big Fox.
More cars, lower prices. Simmons Rockwell. Make car buying simple when you drive your deal at a Simmons Rockwell location near you, where you'll always find more cars at lower prices.
It's the home of creativity. Release your inner audio engineer. Create with the 3D printer. Make your clothing ideas come together with our sewing machine rentals. Or come to the library event nights to chat with those within your community. All with your library card. Go to your local library today.
Kyle just made a decision that would change his whole world.
Hey, you're sober? You drive.
Kyle just made a decision that would change his whole world. Drive sober or get pulled over.
It's a mild day out there with sunshine, light southwest wind, temperature pushing into the mid and upper 40s as compared to the average high of 39. Mild tonight, in fact, staying above freezing with a low of 34. That means it'll be warmer Saturday morning than it will be in the heat of the day, Sunday and Monday, as we settle into some cooler air briefly. Not stuck with it for the rest of the forecast. Could see a little bit of snowflake fall Saturday night into Sunday.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam brought to you by Boss Security in Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio here on Market Street in Corning. So Marist Polls put out their recent results. And I know we get this from Sierra, is it one of them? And then Marist. Well, this poll was conducted February 16th through the 19th. And what we learn is 46% of New York residents approve of the job Governor Hochul is doing in office. That's up from 39% in April of last year. We learned that a plurality of New Yorkers, according to Marist, has a favorable opinion of Governor Hochul, down from 55%. So a plurality of New Yorkers, 48%, have a favorable opinion of Governor Hochul, but that's down from 55% back in October of 2021. Wow, that was a long way to go. Now, more New York voters have a positive impression of the statewide direction where we are headed, while a majority of registered voters in New York still think New York is headed in the wrong direction. Fewer hold that opinion. So it was at 59% in April of last year. Now it's at 56%. 56% think New York is going in the wrong direction. But what a positive way to spin that, huh? A slim majority of New York residents say the quality of life in New York has gotten worse, down slightly from 55% last year. So 51% say the quality of life in New York has gotten worse. Now, some other numbers to look at quickly before we take a break. And this is, again, Marist. A majority of New York voters say the state economy has gotten worse. 55% of New York registered voters say the state economy is getting worse, down from 64% last April. Interesting. 1 in 3 New Yorkers plan to move out of New York, while 66% of New York residents say they plan to stay in New York. 33% expect to move out within the next 5 years. And we've talked about that 5-year plan in the past. If you look at it, these are the reasons. Of those 33% that plan on leaving within the next 5 years, cost of living, 40% of them said that. Quality of life, 21%. Taxes, 15%. Politics, 10%. Weather at 7%. Jobs at 4%. And retirement is at 4%. Now, in the gubernatorial race, Hochul leads Blakeman by 17 points. 2% said they would support another candidate if the election were held today, and 15% were undecided. So Governor Hochul, 50% with a double-digit lead over Bruce Blakeman at 33%. We also learned that Bruce Blakeman is not well known statewide. Nearly 1 in 4 New Yorkers have a favorable opinion of Blakeman. The same proportion, 24%, have an unfavorable view of him, and a majority, 52% of voters have either never heard, combining the two words, have either never heard of Blakeman or unsure how to rate him. 52% of Blakeman do not know who Bruce Blakeman is. Also, Chuck Schumer's approval rating, lowest point in his Senate career, 27%. Gillibrand, also her approval rating, lowest in more than 15 years. There you are. That's Marist. Get your last second comments in. We are nearly out of time for today's edition of Frankly Speaking.
New York State is putting nearly $60 million towards improving key roadways across the southern tier.
Many older homes are still at risk for exposing residents to high levels of lead.
The Nani Hood Parent Resource Center once again brought the community together for its annual Halloween parade.
Around the southern tier, Finger Lake stands out for its scenery and wine scene. This year's dry drought brought some positives to the crop. LeCom Center is looking for fans to show up and show out.
It's tax time, and Current Power Sports is here to help your refund go further. For the month of February, we're covering the sales tax on any new CF Moto machine purchase, plus select accessories. That means big savings on machines built to work hard, ride far, and handle anything you could throw at them. Why pay more than you have to? Let us cover the tax. Stop by Current Power Sports in Wellsboro, Pennsylvania or Pine City, New York, and save big on your next CF Moto. Limitations apply. See store for details.
A mild day out there with sunshine, light southwest wind, temperature pushing into the mid and upper 40s as compared to the average high of 39. Mild tonight, in fact, staying above freezing with a low of 34. That means it'll be warmer Saturday morning than it will be in the heat of the day, Sunday and Monday, as we settle into some cooler air briefly. Not stuck with it for the rest of the forecast. Could see a little bit of snowflake fall Saturday night into Sunday.
The Frankly Speaking Roof Cam, brought to you by Boss Security and Horseheads. Contact them today for all your business and home security needs. We are back, broadcasting live from the Hesselson studio. Our last second comments here. So if Blakeman jumped out, then there would be no splitting. Well, I guess that's one way to look at it. Let's see. So that would put Larry Sharp in as a Republican, and then he wouldn't run. Assumingly, there may be another Libertarian that would take that place. Interesting. Mark says, sounds like Mr. Blakeman better get out and campaign. I mean, a lot of it if he wants to beat, and a lot of it if he wants to beat Hochul. Have a great weekend. Thanks, Mark. You have a great weekend as well. I agree. He said he's going to make his case known to upstate New York. You have to do so. That's not a knock on him. Well, it is, but I mean, it's nothing personal. He's just got to get out in upstate New York. We'd love to have him on the program at any time. Comment from a different viewer. We now have proof that our peanut gallery is more fun to hang out with than theirs. That's in reference to Rick. Thank you very much. And a comment from a different viewer. I think we'd be better off if the upstate sheriff Blakeman picked for lieutenant governor is a governor candidate with Blakeman as lieutenant governor candidate. Fair point. Well, thank you. A lot of great comments this morning. Larry Sharp got a mixed review. That's okay. Speaking of Blakeman, and we just talked about that poll, Dan Janison writes that Bruce Blakeman's still early run for governor and that of his newcomer ticket mates, Joseph Hernandez for state comptroller, Saritha Kamatoreddy for attorney general, carries a national partisan burden not of his making. Even against Governor Hochul, the Democrat incumbent who looked quite vulnerable in 2022, Blakeman and company don't seem at this moment to have the cards, as his ally President Trump might say. The problem stems from deepening party polarization. Only Democrats now govern from Albany. This tilted playing field isn't news, nor is it unique across America for either side of the aisle. When one party holds a governorship as well as control of both legislative chambers, it's known as a trifecta. Currently, there are 23 Republican state trifectas, 16 Democrat state trifectas, and 11 divided governments, where neither party has all three domains. Now, I don't want to get into the history of all this, but just months ago, top Republicans were pressuring Curtis Sliwa, the party's nominee for New York City mayor, to withdraw. Whatever flaws Sliwa had as a candidate, surely some help from GOP funders and party leaders would have made it less of a party embarrassment, given the socialist and anti-Israel stance of the winners around Mamdani. Mocked by Trump before votes were cast, Sliwa got 7, Cuomo 41. For Blakeman to win statewide, he's expected to need about a third of the citywide vote while maintaining a grip on suburban and upstate support. Zeldin didn't reach that. Will Blakeman rely on anti-Mamdani sentiment to offset Democrat strongholds? Politics can change quickly and shock the experts. For the moment, it's hard to see exactly how that will happen this year in this state. So Blakeman's burden is a heavy one. That does it for today's edition of Frankly Speaking. Thank you so much for joining us. Have a great weekend. I hope that you'll tune in every weekday morning, starting at 6 a.m. for Frankly Speaking only on WYDC TV Big Fox. We'll see you Monday morning bright and early. I look forward to it already. Have a great weekend.
More cars, lower prices. Simmons Rockwell. Make car buying simple when you drive your deal at a Simmons Rockwell location near you, where you'll always find more cars at lower prices.